writers, you're listening to the Kobo ReWriting Life Podcast, where we highlight an episode from our backlist that will bring you insights and inspiration for growing your self-publishing business. I'm your host, Tara Kremen, Director of Kobo Writing Life. This week, I've picked an episode with USA Today bestselling author Sara Rosett. In this interview, Sara talks all about how to plot and market cozy and historical mystery series. Also, Sara co-hosts the Wish I'd Known Then podcast for writers with author Jamie Albright. If you like this podcast, you should check it out, and you might even find me on there. Actually, you definitely will, because they interviewed me before, so there is an episode with me on it. Okay, hope you enjoy. Bye.
Thank you, Sara, for joining us on the podcast today. And just before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been published since 2006. The first series I got was from Kensington. It was a traditional cozy mystery. And after that, I wrote in that series for a while, and then I've sort of branched out, and now I do indie publishing, and I now write cozies and historical mysteries. I live in Houston. I've got 2 kids, and I'm married, and that's me.
Nice. So I just want to know a little bit more about your writing journey, because you're a hybrid author. And so you first started publishing traditionally and then you moved to self-publishing, or how did that work?
Yeah, well, back in 2006, it was really hard to do anything independent. So I, went the old-fashioned route. I got an agent. She eventually sold the book, and the publisher brought it out. And because it was a cozy, they like series. So the first deal I got was a 3-book deal. So I knew I was going to write 3 books. And so that went well, and I worked really hard promoting it. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I started hearing about indie books and indie authors. A lot of my friends had there was like the cozy market kind of, it surges and then it kind of drops off. And some people have been dropped, and they got their rights back, and they were self-publishing them, and they were doing really well. And I was like, maybe I better check this out. So I published 2 short stories that I had, and I started seeing a little income from those. And I was like, this might be viable, but I didn't control any of my own content. So I had to write a new series. So I started a new series, and it was sort of a travel mystery series, not quite cozy. And it did all right, but I thought I would probably do better if I did just a cozy series. So I started a new series, and that's really taken off. And so I found like cozies and historical mysteries are kind of my niche. So I just kind of transitioned into that and just loved the control of the covers and the marketing and the pricing. I just love the whole thing.
Did you find it difficult at first, or was the transition really easy for you?
Well, it's a lot of work. It's a big learning curve. And, I had to find all the people that I needed to help me, because I could never do my own covers. I would spend like 2 weeks trying to decide on font alone or something like that. But once I found, some people to help me with the covers and some editors and proofreaders, once I kind of had all those resources, it was a lot easier. And then it was just like figuring out how to manage everything.
Mm-hmm. Have you figured it out?
No. No, that's an ongoing process. Yeah. I've learned that it's a lot of project management. Mm-hmm. You want to do the writing, but then you also have all of the management of the production, and then also the ads and, marketing and all that. So it's a lot to keep up with.
Or do you do it by yourself?
No. Well, I outsource what I can, like I have, the cover artist and all that I talked about, but I do have a virtual assistant, and she helps me. I think a lot of indie authors were we're a little bit of a control freak. And so it's hard for me to give stuff up, and I'm learning to do that. But yeah, once I can something off, it's really nice, because I go, okay, she's taking care of that. That's great.
Definitely.
Yeah, that definitely probably takes a good chunk of the burden from your shoulders and focus on the writing.
Yeah, that's like the dream.
Yeah. You mentioned that you write both cozy mysteries and historical mystery. Can you explain, just for listeners, the difference between the two, and whether there's a difference in the writing process for the two?
Okay, yeah. So a cozy is usually like a modern day setting, and it has like a female protagonist, and she's an amateur sleuth. She gets involved in some sort of case somehow, and she's drawn into the mystery, and she wants to solve it. And so that's like, if you think of like Agatha Raisin, I don't know if y'all are familiar with that TV series, it's kind of like that. Historical can be the same situation, and that's kind of how mine is. It's just kind of a cozy mystery kind of transported to the past, because I've loved reading Golden Age mysteries for years, and so I wanted to write a mystery set during that time period. And so both of them kind of have like a very light tone, and there's very little cussing or swearing or sex. They're very clean books.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, they're very similar, but I suppose in a historical mystery, you could, push those lines further, because in cozies, readers are more expecting a clean read, and I don't know if they're expecting that in a historical mystery, but mine are very similar in tone.
That's interesting. Do you do a lot of background research then when you're going into historical as opposed to in the cozies?
Yeah. And I love that part. And it's easy for me to get lost in that. I like to read a lot of nonfiction. I wouldn't say I'm a huge nonfiction reader, but when I'm I pull in all these ideas and then I kind of let them marinate for a while. So a lot of times I'll just read several different books from the time period. And I like to read fiction that was written during that time period, because it gives me the kind of the language and the atmosphere, like what they describe and what they don't describe. It kind of gives me some guidelines to because I want my books to feel like they're from that time period.
For sure. That's very interesting. And now please tell me the secrets. How does one outline a mystery, even if it is a cozy mystery, so something more clean? Do you know what's happening when you start writing, or do you write until you get to the end and you find out who did it?
Well, I have to kind of know where I'm going, because otherwise I know people that they sit down at a blank screen and they just start typing or they just start dictating, and I can't do that. I freeze up. I feel terrified. And so I kind of have to have an idea of where the story's going, and I kind of know, okay, so this is how it's going to start, and this is where she's going to find the dead body, or where the dead body is going to come in. And then I know the suspects. Usually I know the suspects, and I know the murderer and the victim. And then part of what I do before I get started is I figure out, okay, so there's all these people. How are they related to the person who's killed, and what could make them look guilty? And so I kind of figure out that part, and then I kind of have a flow of the story, and I know how it's going to end. But normally the beginning is very clear, and then it kind of gets murky, but I kind of know where I need to go. And as I write towards it, it becomes more clear, and sometimes I have to stop and replot, So I kind of have a big overview, but I don't have all the little details.
That's really cool.
Do you have any tips for someone who's trying to write a mystery? As I'm thinking of my NaNoWriMo book that I have percolating. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I would say if you can figure out like those three things, like who the murderer is, who the victim is, and then who your suspects are, that kind of gives you a framework to work around and work through. For me, sometimes the hardest part is finding things that will make them look guilty, but they're not really guilty. So they're like innocent secrets. They're things that people maybe wouldn't want people to know, so maybe they'll lie about them. And I like to try and find things that are not like the norm. Like a lot of people would lie about an affair, but that's been done a ton of times. So let's find something new. So that's what I spend time trying to figure out. Like, why would somebody lie? And it's probably something that is innocent, and then they turn out to be a red herring, but it makes them appear guilty in the beginning. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking what I have to write about. But yeah. And then I saw on your website that you mentioned the psychology behind why readers pick a cozy mystery, and I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about that.
Sure, yeah. I think our world is just a little bit crazy, no matter what political side you're on or what, and there's a lot of stuff where people are worried about like the planet. And so a cozy lets you escape into this world where even though there's horrible things that happen, there's a murder, the emphasis is not on the goriness of the murder or the tragedy even. It's more on the puzzle, and you're trying to figure out who did it and why. And it gives you a safe way to explore these things and maybe explore some of these other challenging things that our culture is in. But you can explore it in a safe way, and you know that at the end, there's going to be justice, and everything's going to be restored to the way it was. Everything will be back in a good situation. And it's like you get that vicarious, oh, everything's okay. And then I think people like returning to, cozies are often in a series. And so people like going back to like visit old friends, and see, oh, what's happening with the woman who owns the corner store? And how about the lady who runs the library? What's going on in their life? So I think they enjoy that too.
So does the main protagonist stay the same for each book, or do you kind of switch it around?
I usually have the same protagonist. So in a way that makes it, once you get that first book written, you've kind of got your framework, and then you can explore different, like if they're set in a small town or in an English village, you can kind of explore the different parts of the town or the village, and your character can grow and change, but then there's also a lot going on around them that you can explore.
You might not have an answer to this, but I was just wondering how you balance, because murder is a dark subject, but then I would say not lighthearted, but like people enjoy reading them because it doesn't make them sad. Do you find it hard to balance that kind of aspect of writing?
Well, sometimes I have to think, okay, this may be a little too dark. There's some subjects that I just don't think I can write about and do the justice that it would deserve for the heaviness of that subject. And then I think that there is a lot of humor in cozies, and a lot of that comes into, a lot of times it's the supporting characters are funny, and even though something horrible has happened, a lot of times in a cozy, something horrible has happened to somebody who's really not a good person. So that makes it easier to kind of distance yourself from it. And the emphasis isn't on the graphic nature of the crime. It's more on, what happened. But yeah, it is a balancing act. And there have been times I've thought, no, I can't do this because it's too dark. Because I think readers want to explore the question of why somebody would murder somebody, but they don't want to dwell on, the dark, grim part of it.
Yeah. Would you ever then change a book and turn it into, let's say, a historical mystery when you know that you want to write about a specific murder, but it's not applicable to cozies?
You could, yeah. I haven't ever done that. I tend towards the lighter side of things, so I don't naturally gravitate towards that. But I think there are some subjects that would work better. Like in historical, I feel like the Victorian era is a little darker, the more gritty, so you could probably get away with some more stuff during the Victorian era than, you could in different times.
So I guess I just have a question about marketing series. So since you have the same kind of protagonist, how do you market like long-standing series, or how do you even plot one? I'm skipping around here, but
it's okay.
Do you plot ahead of time and then think of like marketing that way, or how does it work?
Well, the longer I'm doing this, I'm learning more how to plot longer. So when I wrote my first series, I just wrote the first book and I was like, yay, I felt like, oh, I'm done. I accomplished it. And I didn't really think too far down the line. I kind of had some vague ideas, but now I try and think maybe 3 or 4 books ahead and figure out what she could be doing and who she could meet and what mysteries she could encounter. But it's always very general for me. I don't do like a huge, massive outline for the next 6 books because I think it would change anyway as I wrote the first book. So yeah, and so when I market them, I usually focus mostly on the first book in the series because I figure most readers are going to want to come in at book 1 and read. But when I have a new release, I do market it and promote it. But the main focus is on book 1 for me.
So you always market book 1?
I try to, yeah. In box sets, that's always good. Like get a box set going and then get people really in and connected to the characters, then hopefully they'll just keep reading.
So how do you approach that? Do you do it like through a newsletter or BookBub, stuff like that?
Well, I've used Kobo's promos for box sets, and they're great. So they're good. And then I do, like, a lot of times I'll try and do a box set and get a BookBub. Like my new series, I only had, up until just recently, I only had 3 books, so I haven't really put them together in a box set. But the other ones I'll do, like I'll box up the first couple of books in the set and try and get a BookBub for that or run ads to that.
So do you find readers tend to buy box sets more, or is it kind of separate?
Honestly, I'm not very good at keeping records and stats and numbers and stuff, but I feel like that the box set readers are a different group almost than the people who read individual books. I don't know if y'all have seen that.
I can picture that demographic being the kind of reader that likes to binge through a series all at once. So they like not only the value of a box set, like cost-wise,
but they like immediate.
Exactly. It's that Netflix binge-worthy situation where you just keep going from book 1, book 2, book 3.
Yeah, and especially with a recurring main character, you want readers who want the next book and you want it to be available. So box sets are great for that.
A question for you. Are your cozy mysteries within the series, could they be read as standalones? Is that something that usually cozy mysteries do?
Yeah, you could read them as standalones, yeah. Okay. Usually, like each book has a self-contained mystery. So by the end of each book, you're going to know who did it and why and how they did it. But if readers are more interested in like the progress of the main character, like how she's changing and who she's in a relationship with, or what's going on around her, because I tend to have some secondary characters that have things going on in their lives. So if you're very interested in, what happened to the sidekick, then maybe you want to start at the beginning and read through. But the mysteries themselves are always complete.
That makes sense. Do you have any specific platforms that you like to use for promoting your work?
Oh, like social media?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I just enjoy Instagram. I think it's a really fun platform. Facebook to me seems like there's so much going on, and there's like, I get in my newsfeed and it's a little overwhelming. So I'll drop into groups on Facebook and do group stuff there. But I like being on Instagram and posting pretty pictures and, and connecting with readers there. The longer I'm on there, the more I connect with more readers there. So that's really nice.
That's awesome.
I like Instagram the most as a personal user.
Yeah, me too.
What do you think has been the best thing that you've done for your self-publishing business or just writing business in general?
Well, I think two things. One, deciding to be indie and just kind of taking that plunge and, trying it. That was a risk, sort of. But I didn't give up my traditional stuff for a while. I still had that kind of as a backup. And then deciding to write the historical, because that was like a whole new kind of little subgenre to break into, but it's doing really well. And I feel like if I just stayed with straight cozy, then I would have missed, all this new readers, because there are some readers that, will only read historicals or they won't read cozies, and they don't want to cross over. So I'm really happy that I tried it. And it was, who knows how a new series is going to do, but you just have to try it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the self-publishing journey? What's your favorite aspect of it? Is it the writing still, or is there something else about it that you enjoy?
Well, I love the writing, but I suppose it probably depends on what I'm working on that day, So I love research. The writing is one of those things that when I'm in the middle of it, it's very stressful. I just want to be done. When I'm in the middle of a book, I just want to be done. I want that completion. But then when I'm not writing, I miss it. I'm like starting to think about the next book, even when I'm not really working on it yet. And I actually don't mind the formatting and stuff like that. It's kind of nice to have different tasks to do instead of doing each thing, the same thing every day. It's kind of nice to have some variety.
Do you ever work on multiple books at once? Like if you're doing a historical and then a cozy at the same time, or?
I've never done a historical and cozy at the same time. When I was first trying to get into indie books, I was writing a book for the cozy series and in the morning, and in the afternoon, the traditionally published one. And in the afternoon, I was trying to write the travel series mystery for myself. And it was so confusing because one was first person and one was third. Oh. And I thought, I don't need to do this anymore.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have a typical, it takes me 2 months to write a book, or does it change for each?
Yeah, it changes. I found the first book in the series takes me a lot longer. And I think it's just because I'm figuring out who my character is and all, everything that's going on. And then subsequent books can go more quickly, but that's not always the case. There's always the, anomaly that proves the rule, I guess. But I have a feeling it takes me maybe 3 to 4 months to write a book, and maybe shorter, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how things are going in my life and how the book is going.
Do you have a set release schedule for a year, or does it depend on how the writing's going?
My goal is to release 3 books a year, and sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. I try to do 4, and I think that was just a little too much for me. And so I thought, well, I'll roll it back to 3. And now I'm finding that as I get more books out, I have more admin stuff to do, which I didn't realize that would come as I got further down the road. So there's just more to do to keep up with things. So I tend to try and write my books kind of early in the year and get them done, and then take the last part of the year and do all the stuff that has to be done, update my newsletters and my autoresponder stuff and, things like that.
I like that approach. A lot of people we've talked to, they have 12 releases a year, and I just don't know how they can manage everything at once.
I don't know. That blows my mind a little bit.
Or they plan it 2 years ahead. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's wild.
Yeah, but when I started writing, I wrote 1 book a year. And I thought, that was the max I could do. And then I started meeting and hearing about other people that were writing more than 1 book a year. And I was like, oh, maybe that is possible. And then I feel like I had more experience at that point. So it was easier to, kind of apply what I'd learned most of the time and maybe get a little bit faster. But I think there's a point that I'm not going to be I don't think in 10 years I'm going to be turning out 4 times as many books. I just don't think it's going to be possible.
But it's good advice to figure out what you can maintain over a period of time and then see if you can.
Right. And then you have reader expectations. So I've always felt like if I released a book every month for 6 months, then that's what my readers are going to be looking for. And I thought I can't keep up with that. So I would rather release, maybe 1 a quarter or 2 a year. And then that way they kind of know what to expect from me.
Definitely. So we have fun questions. What have you been loving lately? It can be like a TV show, a movie, a book.
Oh, yeah. Well, I binged lately on the Agatha Raisin TV series. That's a cozy mystery series, basically, and they've adapted it for television. And the TV series is very different from the books. But once I got over that it was different, I really liked it.
Yeah.
Books, I always love, there's a series called the Royal Spyness series. It's a historical mystery set in the 30s by Reese Bowen. She has a new one out, and it's called Love and Death Among the Cheetahs. The main character goes to Africa in the 1930s, and it's great. It's lots of fun. It's a woman that she was in line like 30 or something to the throne in England. So you kind of get the royal, what life is like in the royal family.
I know.
But she's poor, so she has to figure out how to get a job and work and stuff. So that's fun. I just read a contemporary cozy. It's by Jill Orr, O-R-R. She's got this series about this woman who works in a newspaper and lives in a small town. And I think it was the third one. The first one I think is called The Big Break. And it's really neat to see. She's had some threads going through the whole series, and she's pulling them all together. And then I can tell there's at least one more book. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I need that next book.
It's so satisfying when you can slowly see things wrapping up across the series. That's really fun.
Yeah, I loved it. So I'm anxiously waiting book 4 in that series.
We'll have all of those linked on the blog post for the podcast for the listeners.
Do you have any writing resources that you think people should check out?
I am a big fan of Becca Syme. She's the one that she talks about personality and how to use your personality well in your writing. She has, I think, 3 books out now. And I think her first one is called Dear Writer, You Need to Quit. And so it's a fun book. See, I just read, I guess the most recent technical writing one I read was BookBub Ads from David Gaughran, which is great because it's very step-by-step. This is what you need to do. So I'm trying to get a better handle on those.
So what are you working on right now?
Well, I just finished up a book that it is a crossover book, and it's my travel series, the contemporary series, and the historical. And so the travel series, it's kind of like an art heist type series. And so she's investigating a painting that went missing. And it turns out that this painting's history goes back to 1923 when my other series is going on. So you get both timelines. I'd never done a dual timeline book before. So this one took a little bit longer, even though it was number 7 in the series. It took a long time to write it. So I've just finished that. And then I'm going back to the historical.
Nice.
I wonder if readers will be like, oh my God,
yeah,
they're the same.
I hope so.
Are you advertising it as it's going to be a crossover?
Well, it's not. I know
it's
no. Well, I mean, it's too late. I let the cat out of the bag. It was supposed to be a surprise. No, I haven't mentioned it much because it's not going to come out until next spring. Because I'm finding that with audiobooks, I need longer timelines. As it gets closer, I will start promoting it as a crossover. I think the tagline is going to be, they're separated by nearly a century, but they're chasing the same piece of art or something like that. So I think it'll be a lot of fun.
You're doing audiobooks too now?
Mm-hmm.
How has that process been like?
Well, I found a wonderful person to narrate them, so it's been awesome.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I'm using Findaway, and so basically I just know I need a longer timeline now. Used to, I could write a book, and as soon as I got done and got the post-production part of it done, I could release it. And now I'm trying to build in more time so that I can have the audiobook out close to the release date. Yeah, I really like it. And it's a different way to do it, because before, when I would release the ebook and the print book, if I found something that wasn't right, or I decided, this isn't working, I could go back and change it. But now I feel like it's done. It's an audio. So it's out and it's done. So it's a different way to do it. Think about it, I guess.
Do you still change your audiobook? I mean, it's not ebooks now, or have you kind of been like, oh, guess not?
No, I've been leaving them alone. I mean, if I find typos, I fix those. But if there's a major thing that a reader points out to me, hey, did you know you had, one time I had a beta reader say, hey, did you know a plot hole? She didn't phrase it that way, but she said, did you know that in this chapter, your character forgot that she suspected this person earlier? And I was like, oh no, she had amnesia. And so I had to go back and fix that. But that was before the book came out, thank goodness.
Good old beta readers coming through.
And they remember the details, which is awesome.
That's pretty good.
Do you have beta readers read every novel that you write?
Mm-hmm. I have a group of people that Most of them have been reading my books for like years and years. And so I send them the early books and I ask them to send me back typos or anything like that just doesn't make sense. And yeah, it's nice because a lot of them know kind of my style and they know, kind of what to expect. And if I haven't had big things like where they come back and say, this is so out of character, but they have caught some stuff that would have been embarrassing if it had gone out.
How did you find them? Or were they just readers in general?
Yeah. A lot of times people would email me and say, hey, did you know that I found some typos? Do you want me to send them to you? And I'd always say, yes, please. And then there are other readers that would contact me and they weren't quite so nice about it. And so I would ask the nice ones if they wanted to kind of join my beta reading team. So that's kind of how I found them.
You heard it here first. Be nice.
Be nice.
Well, there's like kind of a tone that is
for sure.
You get to read books early. I mean, what's not to love about
Being
that?
nice has its perks.
Yeah.
It's been great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah, it's been good. Thanks. It's been fun though to talk to y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Kobo ReWriting Life podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast, please rate, review, and subscribe. And be sure to follow us on socials. We are at Kobo Writing Life on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter. This episode was hosted by Stephanie McGrath and Marina Ferreira, with production by Terrence Abrahams. Editing is provided by Kelly Robotham, and our theme music is composed by Tearjerker. If you're ready to start your publishing journey, sign up today at kobo.com/writinglife. Until next time, happy writing.